Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're checking out a super fascinating devotional. We're going to break down exactly what ancient wisdom means when it talks about having a hard heart. Okay, let's dive into this.
So, think about this for a second. Imagine your alarm clock goes off at 6:30 a.m. for school. You know the sound. Beep, beep, beep. The very first time you hear it, it's super loud, right? You probably jump. But maybe you hit the snooze button. Then you hit it again and again. Eventually, after a few days or weeks of doing this, you might literally sleep right through it. Your ears still work perfectly fine, but your brain has basically learned to completely ignore the sound. Well, our devotional tells us that our hearts and our consciences work the exact same way. If we keep ignoring what we know is the right thing to do, ignoring it quickly becomes, well, second nature.
All right, moving into section 1, the warning in the devotional.
The text gives us this specific piece of advice that was written down thousands of years ago, and it works exactly like that alarm clock. It quotes the book of Psalms saying, "Today if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart." The devotional describes this as a direct warning from God. It's meant to help us catch our mistakes way before our bad habits get totally stuck. Honestly, it's kind of like a loving parent saying, hey, listen to that alarm clock right now before you miss the bus. It's asking us to pay close attention to that little nudge inside of us when we know we should do the right thing.
And that little nudge, the devotional calls it conviction. It's that little voice inside telling you what's right. The text warns that every single time we repeat a bad choice or ignore that little voice, it actually stifles conviction. It places us right on what it calls the enemy's ground. And just to be clear, when the text mentions the enemy, I want you to picture a wicked-faced man wearing an ancient Israelite priest tunic with strong masculine angel wings. Absolutely no silly cartoon beast features or horns here. But stepping onto his ground, that weakens our power to resist making more bad choices. We basically get stuck.
That brings us to section 2, ice, iron, and rock. Now what's really interesting about this slide is how it uses the physical world to explain what's going on inside of us.
The devotional uses real-world science to explain what happens to our hearts when we get stuck on that enemy's ground. Imagine taking your nice, warm hand and pressing it against a solid block of freezing ice. Or try to imagine bending a heavy, thick bar of iron. Or trying to punch your way through a solid rock. You just can't do it, right? Well, the text compares a person who constantly ignores the truth to these exact three things: the coldness of ice, the hardness of iron, the impenetrable nature of rock. A repetition of sin makes our hearts just as cold and hard as these objects. You sort of just stop caring and the truth bounces right off of you, exactly like a tennis ball bouncing off a solid rock wall.
Okay, let's look at section 3, the law of the harvest.
Think about how our daily choices are a lot like planting a garden in the backyard. In gardening, you have sowing, which is planting the seeds, and you have reaping, which means picking the vegetables or fruit that actually grow. The devotional makes a huge point here. God doesn't just step in and do a miracle to stop bad seeds from growing. There's no magic trick to make bad seeds grow into good fruit. If you are sowing neglect, indifference, and resistance to the truth, which basically just means ignoring what's right, you are going to reap the exact same harvest. You will harvest a hard heart. If you plant weed seeds, you're going to grow weeds. It's just the natural law of cause and effect.
And this brilliantly illustrates section 4, the story of Pharaoh.
The devotional brings up this famous historical story of the Egyptian king Pharaoh to show exactly how this works. Let's walk through these 4 steps. Step 1, the text says God speaks to the king through Moses, giving him tons of evidence and light. Step 2, Pharaoh stubbornly refuses the truth. He essentially hits the snooze button on his conscience. Step 3, because Pharaoh refuses to listen, the Holy Spirit is withdrawn. And step 4, Pharaoh is completely left in darkness and unbelief. Notice what the text is really pointing out here. God didn't send down some supernatural power to magically curse Pharaoh with a hard heart. No. The devotional explains that Pharaoh's heart hardened as a direct, natural reaction to his own stubborn choices. He planted seeds of stubbornness and he harvested a heart of rock.
So the absolutely crucial point is captured right here in this quote from the text. By persistent rejection, men cut themselves off from God. You see, the devotional is telling us that God doesn't have some secret backup plan to force you to listen if you just keep pushing him away. When we constantly push the truth away, we simply leave ourselves sitting in the dark without any light. It's an action and a reaction.
Which brings us to our final part, section 5, sitting at Jesus' feet. Now, I know all of that sounds a little scary, but don't worry. The devotional actually ends with an incredibly encouraging solution. It shows us the safe path that leads far, far away from the enemy's ground and keeps our hearts warm and open. Instead of sowing bad seeds, the text tells us to sit at the feet of Jesus and learn from him. When you do this, you develop something the text calls unbending principle. I absolutely love that phrase, unbending principle. It means that instead of having a cold, hard heart that pushes goodness away, you become incredibly strong and steady at making good choices. You basically become like a superhero whose superpower is doing the right thing no matter what. You learn to listen to that alarm clock the very first time it rings.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with this one question to think about. What kind of seeds are you planting in your heart today? Are you hitting snooze on the right thing, planting seeds for an ice-cold heart? Or are you choosing to sit, learn, and grow strong, unbending principles of goodness? Remember, the harvest is entirely up to you. Thank you so much for hanging out and exploring this awesome devotional with me today. Keep asking great questions, and I will see you on the next explainer.